Michael, I'm not flattering you idly when I say that your own story is one of incredible persistence, if not heroism itself. You managed to convince your professors at Indiana University to let you teach a course as an undergraduate in comic books as an American folk art. You then fought your way to DC Comics, the lifetime dream of a geek. Didn't stop there, became a lawyer, and then an entertainment lawyer, and fought for 10 years to get the first Batman movie made. What drove you to bring this character, Batman, back to the place that you thought he should be on the big screen?
It's an easy revelation. I'm the ultimate comic book geek fanboy. I'm the kid who had over 30,000 comic books in his garage by the time he graduated high school. My mom said I learned to read before I was 4 from comic books. And when I was 8 years old, I'll tell you that of all the superheroes, forget Superman and Spider-Man and the Hulk, Batman was it for me. This was a guy who had no superpowers. I always thought his greatest superpower was his humanity. And I could really identify with this guy. Plus, he had the world's greatest supervillains in history. When I was 8, seriously, in my heart of hearts, I did believe that if I studied real hard, and if I worked out real hard, and if my dad bought me a cool car, I could be this guy. And so finally, my first chance, though, to take what I was passionate about in life, my comic books and Batman, and make that work came in my undergraduate years at Indiana. But it was really all beginning on a cold January night in 1966 when the Batman TV series came on the air for the first time. That night, I was simultaneously thrilled and horrified by what I was seeing on TV. I was thrilled that Batman was on TV, it was in color, the car was cool, but I was horrified that the whole world was making fun of Batman. That just killed me. And so that night I made my little young Bruce Wayne vow, the same kind of vow he made when he saw his parents murdered before his eyes, believing that one person can make a difference in this world. Well, my young Bruce Wayne vow took place with my parents safe upstairs in the kitchen. But I swore that someday, somehow, I was going to show the world what the true Batman was like. The creature of the night who stalked criminals from the shadows as he was created in 1939. And somehow, I would find a way to erase from the collective consciousness of the world culture those 3 little words, pow, zap, and wham.
So you found some incredible storytellers themselves, from Tim Burton to Christopher Nolan, to tell these stories. How did you find them, and what did they bring anew to the character of Batman, who is almost 80 years old?
Well, what you have to know is when I bought the rights to Batman, which I did when I was in my 20s, and you'd say, well, how does a kid in his 20s who doesn't come from money, can't buy his way into Hollywood, doesn't know anyone in Hollywood, has no relatives in Hollywood, how does he get the rights to Batman? And the answer really is nobody else on the planet Earth wanted the rights to Batman. The president of DC Comics that owned the rights was wonderful. He tried to talk me out of it. He says, Michael, please save your money. Since Batman went off the air on television, he's as dead as a dodo. Nobody's interested in Batman anymore. And I said, yeah, but if we can do it in this dark and serious way, like nobody's ever seen movies before, we can do something completely different. And he said, is there any way I can talk you out of this? And I said, no. And he said, all right, come on in. Bought the rights to Batman, quit my job, went out to Hollywood, sure that I would convince the studios, all of them, that this was a great, great new franchise that would have sequels and animation and toys and games. And I was turned down by every single studio in Hollywood. They told me I was crazy. It was the worst idea they ever heard, because they said, you can't do dark superheroes. You can't do serious comic book films. You can't make a movie out of an old television series. It's never been done. So what I thought was going to be a slam dunk turned out to be a 10-year human endurance contest. It took 10 years from the time I bought the rights to Batman with my partner Ben Melniker until that first movie came out. And it was Tim Burton. Warner Brothers said, you've got to take a look at this young man. He's a real imaginative director. They showed me a fine cut of a movie called Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I said, I have never seen such a creative combination of direction and art direction. I have to meet this guy. They set up a series of lunches for me with Tim. And we were able to talk about the serious Batman, and I was able to share with him certain comic books that I wanted him to see that embodied the serious Batman, and then he had the creative vision to say, okay, nobody's ever done this before, there's never been a dark, serious comic book movie. Number one, Gotham City has got to be the third most important character in this piece. From the opening frames, we have to get audiences to believe in Gotham City, or else they'll never believe in a guy getting dressed up as a bat to fight crime. He said, number two, this is not about Batman, this is all about Bruce Wayne. We have to convince him that Bruce Wayne is a guy so driven, so obsessed, to the point of being psychotic, that they will go, yeah, that is a guy who would get dressed up as a bat. And it was Tim's amazing casting of Michael Keaton, who was a comedian up to that time. He had just done his first serious movie, Clean and Sober. And Tim had this vision and knew that Keaton could deliver. I was apoplectic. I said I could see the posters now. Mr. Mom is Batman. That just is not going to work. But he was right about that. And Keaton was able to stand up to the performance of Jack Nicholson as the Joker. And we wound up with a movie that was revolutionary at the time, tremendously successful. You could not walk through Times Square the summer of '89, 25 steps, without seeing somebody wearing a Batman hat or a Batman t-shirt. And it was the first movie that was advertised on posters without the name of the movie on it. Just a gold oval with a black bat in the center.
I think it's fair to call that a heroic decision to take the Pee Wee Herman guy and Mr. Mom and put them together to make The Dark Knight. You've told me a little bit about your son, who is now taking comics into the 21st century. Tell us a little bit about how you think storytelling is going to change, moving from the guy who has 30,000 comic books in his garage to the comic on the tablet, on the iPad, in the digital age.
My son David is now both a producer in LA, and he is also with a company called Graphically. Graphically is at the forefront of the digitization of the American comic book industry. They have signed on most of the great comic book companies and hundreds of individual creators. You may want to say that print is dying. You may want to say it's in a slow death. You may want to say it is never going to die. Whatever you think, absolutely digital is the future, and the future's today. So now they are putting all of these great graphic novels and comic books on apps in different languages all over the world. They're creating a new digital experience as opposed to simply putting up a comic book page or panel and getting it out there. And I believe that that is the future for comics, and it is a way to make them viable and to extend the popularity of comics to the same places the movies and the animation and the TV shows and the video games are now reaching all over the world. Finally, comic books are going to be able to do the same.
I have a million more questions for you, but I'd love to take a couple from you. Is there anyone who has a question for Michael in the audience? Sir, right here.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, I probably want to ask the question that everybody's thinking about. If you're able to disclose it, what did you buy the rights for?
A whole lot of money.
Okay, a pretty decent amount?
Yeah, it was a real substantial amount. And I had to literally go to friends, doctors, lawyers, dentists from Cincinnati and wherever I could find to pool together the money in order to do it. I had to find people who were willing to believe in me. And that became very important, as nobody in Hollywood did. And everybody thought my idea was terrible. And when you have everybody telling you you stink, your idea is the worst, and that goes on for years, you really have to look deep inside and kind of say, do I really believe in this? Do I really believe in myself? Or is everybody else right and I'm just being stubborn?
Do we have another question? I know I have several. Sir.
People talk about the advent of serious gaming. What about do you see comics somehow being repurposed in terms of other channels, in terms of educational, or if you like, almost a category of serious comics?
Well, number one, in terms of education, I was involved with a comic book series called Edugraphics, going back to the 70s when I started work as an undergraduate at DC Comics in New York. And this was a series of comic books specially prepared using Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman to motivate kids to read, to teach learning disabled children how to read, and to teach English as a second language students how to read. That became incredibly successful. We were working with the Graduate School of Education at Harvard, and ultimately we made a presentation to the New York City Board of Education, which adopted it as a supplemental reading program. There is a huge potential for comic books in education and in reading, and one that is largely untapped, and I hope the future, especially as the technology opens us up for it, is going to be there and is going to be very significant.
I think we have time for one more. Sir?
I learned to appreciate literature from Classics Illustrated. I don't know if you remember that. But I'm wondering what skills you brought to the successful Batman franchise other than a passion for comics.
Well, I think it is a passion, number one. Number two, thematically, if you look at it, it is about a person who, as the genius director, Christopher Nolan, I think has very successfully executed in the 3 Batman movies that make up his trilogy, that, that anyone can become a hero. That the whole concept of Batman or the superhero is that of a symbol. And it's a symbol that can be filled by anyone in the streets willing to make a sacrifice, willing to make a commitment, willing to honor the commitment, believing that one person can make a difference. And you know, especially post 9/11, there were a lot of comic books that were prepared and done, very emotional comic books that talked about the role of heroes, and the heroes being policemen and firemen and EMTs. And I think that's one of the very, very basic natures of comics that have to be expressed in movies. Yes, it is traditional folklore and mythology. It's ancient warriors against wizards, demons, and dragons, although they all wear spandex and capes today. But thematically and morally, I think, and ethically, there are a lot of great, great points to be brought out by comics and, in the process, the movies. And I think Christopher Nolan in particular has done just an incredible job of embodying that on a very emotional level and raising the bar for all comic book type films with his work on Batman.
Michael Uslan, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Now, I don't get many moderator's privileges, but I'm going to call my one card in here. I've just got to hear Grace McLean and them apples just one more time. We're going to call them back on the stage.
Hi again. This was fun, wasn't it? Yeah, that's the attitude I like. I want to say thank you to The Economist for having us. This has been a really fun day. We've got one more song for you. Oh, but first, I wanted to let you know, we did just release our very first EP. It's called Make Me Breakfast. You can find it on iTunes. This song you'll find on that very EP. It's called My Friend's Roommate, and it is a true story. Get ready. There's a boy lives down the street. I go over to his house, I think it's pretty neat. He makes me dinner when I go over there. Even lets me sit in the comfy chair. We talk about our spiritual journeys, laugh and sigh while we drink our tea. And it's alright, yeah, it feels alright. Sit on the couch, I hear the keys in the door. I don't look up right away, but keep my eyes on the floor. No reason to get excited, cause I've been there before. It's his roommate that I've been waiting for. He's got a wit so sharp it'll cut off a limb with one fell swoop, and it makes me swoon. He's politically aware. He watches CNN just as much as he asks me. And no, dear, I think I hear him calling out my name. Oh my, it was just a cry for me to get out of his way so that he could get by. It's not the biggest place, but it's enough for my friend to have a roommate. I'm in love with my friend's roommate. I hope that that's okay. Oh, don't know the rules about making a move. I guess I'll leave it up to fate. He works late and he goes out dancing, so it's sort of a chance to catch him. But I'd be there every night of the week just to wish him good night as he shuffles off to sleep. If I had the gall, I'd stay there and crawl through his window and tell him what he already knows, that I like him, 'cause I do. I like to think of when we're watching TV that he's looking at me and not the screen. I like to think of when he's being mean. It's his way of saying to me, hey, you're my queen. Even though he's a douche, I wanna give him a smooch. He makes me laugh and that's all I can ask. I'm in love with my friend's roommate. I hope that he's not gay. No, keep in mind it wouldn't be the first time my affections have wandered that way. Even though we never had a real conversation, it doesn't mean it wouldn't be a sensation. If he'd only look up from his video game, I'd tell him my middle name. It's Elena. Shh. Even though we made out that one time, he's still not sure if I'm a person or a crumb to brush away from his full plate. I be his creme brulee. They'd only ask me to stay. I don't mean I seem too desperate. Just want to know if he would make me breakfast, yeah. Oh, cook my eggs in your baking grease. I'm in love with my friend's roommate, but he's moving away. Well, said my Toulouse, but didn't boo-hoo. There'll be someone else to fill that space. Any day now, yeah. Sooner or later. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You guys?